long time, I was scared to share my true color, to be who I truly was. I was hiding in the story I was reading, fearful of what people would think about me. But this ends now. I have stopped running. I decide to accept my diversity. Today, I will share our story of neurodiversity and mental health awareness. Welcome on the ADHD Melly Show. Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well today. Before we start, I want to say thanks to my sponsor 0DB to sponsor this show like always. Without you, I'll be nothing, But thank you so much for that, and to support inclusive and accommodate people like me. And before we start, I want to tell you that I've created an inclusive directory for the businesses if you want to put your business in, if you are neurodivergent, any people that support diversity in the workplace should be on this directory. So I'm going to share you the link right now if you want to check it out, and it's $1 only to subscribe in it, so you don't need to worry about feeling uncomfortable with money because you won't be in this directionary. I want it to be inclusive and everybody can use it, so I'm going to send you that in. So yeah, I had the link, but I don't know why because I don't want my computer to just stop and not working anymore. So I take off all my tab, and the one I needed, of course, disappear. So I'm going to send the link right now. So voila. So you're welcome to go check it out. It's a beta tester still yet, but everything is working. And if you have any comment or anything that you want me to change, or if you want a forum, I was thinking maybe adding a forum on it so people with businesses and they are neurodivergent or have a disability or etc. can talk together and just help each other out to thrive in their business as well. So it's something that's going to come if you're interested in that, and everything is going to be included in the price when you subscribe. For now, it's $1 until the end of the month. I'm going to increase the price, of course, but just started out, I wanted to make it affordable to everybody. I think maybe to put it at $5, something like that. So if you want to have it at $1, you have to subscribe right now. So today we're going to talk about inclusive and accommodate WordPress with Liz. So that's a little bit why I wanted to talk a little bit more about that new project of mine, because that's what we're going to talk today. So welcome, Liz. Everybody clap their hands for Liz. How are you today?
I'm good. I hope I can match the energy. Yeah, I'm really good, thanks.
It's okay. Don't worry. I don't know if it's your first time being on live. How do you feel today?
A tad nervous. But yeah, no, I've done a couple before. But yeah, I'm all good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank Carl for being here today and watching us. And please tell me in the comment where you're from. I love to see all those people all around the world and where you are and everything. So yeah. Normally you should be able to see us, and yes, on LinkedIn sometimes it takes a little bit of time to what we see now and what's happening on LinkedIn. There's a delay, so it's normal you don't see me now, but you will see me, I promise. So please, Liz, tell me, what is for you an inclusive and accommodate workplace?
I think it's a workplace where I'm not sure if they exist, if many of them exist as yet. But I think it's a workplace where everyone is able to be themselves and operate to the best of their capability, playing to their strengths, and are accepted for being who they are. So there's allowances as needed for different disabilities and performance, and it's just a safe place where people can be themselves and aren't afraid to bring their true self to work.
Thanks, Petra. So to be here today. Yes, absolutely. And what I found hard for me to just being able to find a job and to tell them that I have ADHD and not being ashamed of my ADHD because I have talents. I can do things like everybody else. Of course, I do have my divergency, and that does not stop me from being productive and being able to do the same work. Of course, I'm going to need adapt to be adapted for certain environment, like being a quiet place. The work may be less hours, but I'm fine of not having the same salary because I know I'm going to do less hours. I accept that sometimes that I cannot do necessarily 8 hours a day. Is a long time for me, and employers should use that at their advantage. That person is not going to work 8 hours, so I'm not going to pay it 8 hours, and that's totally understandable. And or skills, I hyper focus a lot. I create my directory in like 2 days. It was already done. So when I'm passionate in something, I'm going to be able to be as productive and maybe even more. And yeah, that's a little bit why you should hire somebody with a neurodivergent or simply with a physical disability too, because they can do the work. Of course, it depends what kind of work, obviously, but they can't. If they ask to be hired to your business, is because they can do the job. So give them a chance. so
Yeah,
can
I
you please
agree.
tell? So please tell me a little bit more about your story about being hired in a workplace.
Okay, so yeah, so I received an ADHD diagnosis in 2020, and I was in the process of interviewing for a company. So I didn't tell them about it until after I got the offer because I hadn't actually received the diagnosis. Um, but yeah, as soon as I found out, I had a meeting booked with my manager before my start date. So I just thought it'd be best just to let him know. And conversation went really well. I know sometimes people can have quite bad experiences when it comes to things like this. But yeah, I was just really open and asked what his thoughts were. And he just let me know about their processes internally, which was occupational health and access to work, which we have in the UK, and asked if there's anything that I thought that I might need in terms of adjustments. But I said that I wasn't quite sure. So that all went really well. And then when I've recently received another job offer, the interview process for that, I put having ADHD on my CV. I asked for reasonable adjustments during the interview process, and we're just discussing what adjustments might look like for the start of my role. So for me personally, I've had a really good experience. I know from speaking to other people, it doesn't always go that way, but I just feel I just need to be really honest and just be myself. And I just have to bring myself and my needs and not be ashamed. So yeah, I've had a really positive experience. So I feel quite privileged in that sense.
I'm very happy that everything worked for you. So did you had the job?
Yeah. So I got the job offer. Yeah.
So how was it?
Yeah, it was really good, really good. There was quite a lot of candidates. Um, One of the internal recruitment team had ADHD herself, so I found that really helpful. So we were sort of discussing that during the interview stages. But yeah, really positive experience, and yeah, really thankful for how that went.
So can you describe a little bit how it was to work in a business before you get your interviews, your diagnosis, I mean, and after your diagnosis? What changed?
Yeah, I think it was. I used to be quite chaotic, and there wasn't a huge amount of structure. So I didn't realize how much I needed day planning, routine, and structure to keep me on track. And I felt quite stressed a lot of the time, and just really unsure what I was struggling with in the workplace. So I did find work quite hard, although I was able to perform. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Um, Struggled with prioritization, time management, and I always found that if there was deadlines looming, then I'd just do really well, and that's when I would sort of come into myself. But when I had weeks to do things, I just put them off or procrastinated on them. So since then, I've got just a better awareness of myself and my needs, and I've realized sort of the importance of structure and routine, and having like mini milestones along the way, because otherwise I can get a little bit disengaged in some of the tasks if it seems too big or too far away. I've also I've had a career change, and I'm focusing on my areas of strength now, because I think it's so important, particularly for ADHD, is that we do find out what our areas of strength and passion are, because as you say, that's how you get the hyper focus. And I think if you're able to hyper focus, I think you can get really high performance, as long as you're able to break that up with some breaks, from a well-being perspective, and make sure you're not spending too much time on tasks. But it just gave me a massive awareness of myself. I found the process of being diagnosed hugely liberating, and it was probably one of the best days of my life, because it just made me understand myself a lot more. I showed a lot more compassion to myself, where I used to be quite harsh on myself. So that was a huge positive. But just an awareness, and understanding the importance of setting boundaries and pushing back and asking for more clarity. I think what having the diagnosis gave to me mainly was confidence. It just made me understand myself more, and I really applied that within the workplace, and it's been an amazing experience. Really, really, really positive for me.
So, what would you say to somebody that struggle at work, but they try as best as they can to not show it off because they're scared of maybe losing their job, or maybe getting a boss looking at them a little bit weirder because they admit they have a neurodivergency? What will you suggest to those people?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a tricky one. I think you need to assess the situation and the organization, and just I think you need to put your own safety first, from a psychological safety perspective, and just think, what are the possible consequences or fallout of this. And in the UK, ADHD is protected under the Equality Act, so there is some protection for employees. So I think you could possibly go to HR, maybe have a conversation with them, or someone that you trust in the organisation, and just have a chat with them, get their thoughts, and just make sure that you're in a safe place to be able to disclose things like that, or find someone that you can chat to and see if they're able to raise that. But I don't think it should be tiptoed around. I would love to see in a few years' time that people can be really open about who they are and how they show up at work, and that shouldn't be a problem. So I would hope that people would be able to do it, a lot more, and to feel supported within the workplace, because that's what everyone deserves.
Absolutely. And for you, what was your click to tell yourself, I need to get a diagnosis? I am not working my best right now. I don't feel myself, or I don't understand myself mostly. So, what makes you seek help?
Yeah, I felt like that probably for definitely most from teenage years onwards. I felt that something wasn't quite right, and I wasn't really sure what was going on in the background for me. But when I went back to university to study a master's, as soon as I started, within the first couple of weeks of doing lectures, it just everything flooded back from the first time I went to uni and my experience of school, which wasn't amazing. And it just reminded me how hard I found education and the education system, and having to sit down in lectures for, I don't know, 8 hours a day, it would just remind me what it used to be like. And I found that really hard. I found I was struggling to retain all the information. I was watching back, all the different videos, and looking back at the slides, but I just couldn't retain the info. And so I was chatting to a friend at uni whose daughter was going through an ADHD diagnosis, and I was talking to her about the anxiety I experienced. I've had very bad anxiety for a lot of my life, and she said that there's real similarities between my experience and her daughter's. And had I thought about ADHD, and I never had, it never even crossed my mind. And she showed me something called the ADHD iceberg, just this image, and I was just struck by how similar that image was to the experiences that I'd have across my life. And so I did a little bit of research, started reading about female ADHD and the differences in presentation, and just thought, this is definitely me. So yeah, I just put myself in for a diagnosis and never
So
looked back.
talk to me a little bit more about those research, because you told me when we chat that you wanted to talk a little bit more about it, and I'm very curious of what did you find about in those research.
Yeah. So I'm, for part of my master's research, I'm looking at the experience of work engagement for individuals with ADHD that are working in a hybrid role. So looking at the difference between being remote at home versus being in the office, and if there's a difference, and just to understand more about the experience. But research on ADHD in the workplace is really limited. There isn't a lot out there. And most of it is sort of based medical evidence and medical research, which is fair enough. But there was a real emphasis of the research available on sort of the negative sides and the impacts on performance. And again, I think ADHD receives a lot of stigma anyway. And then if you look at the research as well, it's almost adding to that stigma, because it's focusing on all the negative elements and how that might impact an organization, and it almost discounts the individual and how they feel. So that was the motivation for me to do the research that I'm looking at. But some of the studies have found how incremental feedback from your line manager can have a huge impact on your engagement levels and your performance. Also, the amount of support that you have in an organization has a huge impact. And also, those that have ADHD have a higher propensity to have other mental health conditions, and their mental health was generally considered to be worse within the workplace. So these are all considerations that individuals and managers and organisations can start to have a look at how they can support their ADHD workforce, and also other neuro diverse conditions as well. So that was really insightful. And of another study that I found, it had about 130 participants that were talking about the burden of illness that came with ADHD, and 89% of participants said that they felt impacted at work because of their ADHD. And so when you've got such a high percentage of people being impacted, it really is an area that people need to understand and research more. As a population, they say it's between sort of 4 and 7% are typically affected by ADHD. So you're looking at a fair amount of people, but it just seems to be missed off, and just not focused on enough. There's not enough research. There's not enough focus on the strengths. There's not enough focus on the positivity. And that I could find was just looking at entrepreneurship and creativity, which I do think do go hand in hand with ADHD, but there's so much more to it than just this focus on creativity and entrepreneurship. So yeah, that was really interesting, and there's lots to find out. And yeah, happy to share my findings once I've concluded.
Yeah, I'm very excited that somebody finally do research on ADHD when you're an adult. You know, they always do research on children. Like if ADHD is going to disappear by magic after you turn 18, you know, 18 up, no more ADHD. I'm not struggling in workplace anymore in my studies or anything. But that's not the reality. It's following you for your life. It's going to be there until you die, okay? It's not going to just disappear and not being there. And yeah, it's quite hard sometimes when you're an adult and everybody tells you that it's going to fade away. Even by psychologists, they say, oh, it's going to be okay when you're finally 18, you know, when you're going to the workplace. But no, it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't, and when you're a child, and you have supportive parents going to help you going faster in life and going better in life, yeah, but you still need support when you're an adult. And sometimes when you're an adult, you just don't understand why this is still happening to me, and you feel like I'm not a teenager anymore. I should be able to be where I need to be in my life. And sometimes when you have ADHD, your life is just behind everybody else. Like, I'm 33 and I don't feel like I'm 33. I feel more like I'm in my middle 20s because I haven't lived the things that somebody my age should have lived. I don't have a career. I don't have a house. I still live with roommates. And sometimes it can be hard mentally to just seeing yourself at the same place that you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I do think there is a tendency to focus sometimes on the negatives and be a bit harsh
Mm-hmm.
on ourselves. So being able to show compassion and appreciation for what you are achieving, I think that's really, really important too. And try not to compare yourself to too many other people, because we're all our timelines are unique, and we'll reach different milestones at different times. But as long as you're happy and enjoying life and doing what you can, I mean, what you're doing here, I would be too scared to do something like this. So fair play for everything you're doing and all the great work that you're doing. So you've got lots to celebrate for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to think about everything that I accomplished. The ADHD Melly Show is going to be 1 year. Like, the first May is going to be 1 year, and I'm still quite excited. And I see that there's a discussion in the chat. I don't need to do anything, and they're just talking because they are meeting. And all those people that I meet at the same time, and all the people that are commenting. I'm so thankful. Thank you, Carl, for being here, and Petra. You make my chat funny, okay? I'm trying to not laugh of all the things that you're writing sometimes. And thanks so much for supporting me from the beginning, Petra, for being here. I'm glad to meet you, Carl, and I haven't met you yet. And I'm so happy to have you here. So yeah, please go on the directory, put your business there, because your business deserves to be seen, because you are in the neurodivergent community, or even if you're not neurodivergent yourself, you are here to help diversity in the workplace with a little step, and you deserve to be in the directory for that reason. So for you, what is the most important for an employer to accept, not necessarily accept, but to help a neurodivergent or a disabled person feel like, how can I say that? Like I said, English my second language, and sometimes I'm not searching for a word. Like, I mean, to be like out, but at the same time they know how to do the work, but know how they should be compassionate and everything. I don't know how to explain that, but you know what I mean. How an employer should not necessarily respect, but help the disabled person or the neurodivergent person. I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I think it's really important for organizations, whether it's sort of people functions or business owners, to really look at the landscape of their employees and see, what does this look like? What's the representation of gender, race, disability, all sorts of different characteristics. And I think you can tell a lot about your organization by having a look at the people that work there and seeing where there are gaps. And I think if there are gaps, then there should be accountability for that, and an ownership for making change, because it is in your control,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something you should prioritize should you wish to. My role is sort of day-to-day role is working in employee well-being, and not all organizations choose to prioritize that, but those that do see huge benefits. And I think it's the same with having inclusive cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and good representation. The organization fundamentally benefits from a performance and engagement productivity perspective, but it's kind of frustrating when you have to go towards like a business case or reasons for why organizations should make decisions that benefit them, when really it's the right thing to do. And why would you not want to have an inclusive
Mm-hmm.
organization? Why would you not want to have a business that would attract all sorts of backgrounds, experiences? And that's something I don't really understand, why that wouldn't be a goal. Like, why would you not want to have diversity of thought, cognition, just diversity across the board? and do a lot more. So I think it's something that it's a choice for organizations. I feel there has been some progression in that area over the last sort of 10-15 years, but there's still quite a lot to do. And you'll often see on diversity and inclusion strategies that neurodiversity isn't included, and it's something that's being left behind. I don't really know the reason why, possibly because of hidden disabilities, but it's definitely something that that needs to be considered a lot more, because you've got so many talented individuals that may struggle to find work or be employed because of the interview processes or the way the organizations are set up. It just doesn't work for them. So it's looking at job design, in the environments within organizations, the physical structures. There's quite a lot that organizations need to do and should be doing, really. It's 2020. It's time to do better, essentially.
Yeah, and what will you say to an employer or a business manager that say they will cost more money? What will you say to those people that think they are going to be more expensive than a neuronormal person?
I think if you look at the outlay of costs, sometimes tech may have a slight cost attributed, but I'd say most adjustments don't come with cost, and it's things like flexibility, looking at hours and work setup, and the way people are managed and how they're able to work there, choose the way they work. So I don't think there's often a financial cost associated. So I don't think that I wouldn't use that as I don't think that's a valid excuse for organizations to be able to use, although some may use that. But it's having a person-centered approach where the individual is at the center, and there's an understanding of what their needs are, what that might look like, and also flexibility to change, and to make adjustments over time. Something that might work for a period of time may not help in 6 months. But I don't know of huge outlays of cost when it comes to neurodiversity in the workplace. Not that's unreasonable, in my experience.
It's true, and at the same time, people want to buy from people that are inclusive and accommodate. Okay, so if you're an employer, just think about the people are going to buy from you just because you offer inclusivity, and it's something good in society right now to do. So if you want to have a nice business that sells well, you need to include other people, because you're missing a lot in those minds. Those people are talented, and you miss them just because you're scared of our word ADHD, anxiety, PTSD. Oh my god, it's so scary. Okay, or disability, physical disability. The person is in a wheelchair. Oh my god, I'm going to die. Okay, and some people are so scared about that they just put it aside and just hire some people that are easier to put in a mold.
Yep. Cookie cutter hires, they love it. Fit straight in the box, plug in and play.
Exactly. So what you should say to an employer that wants to accommodate somebody but doesn't know exactly what they should do? And yes, they can talk to the future employer themselves, but they want to do a little bit more than what they ask, just because they care about the people that are working for them. So what would you suggest?
I think if you don't have the in-house expertise, which most organizations don't, then I'd probably start by asking the individual in the first instance what they think they need and what would be helpful, and what barriers essentially can be removed. If you want to go a little bit beyond that, you can, in the UK there's occupational health assessments that can take place. There's specialist neurodiversity organisations that will be able to do these assessments. Also, we've got access to work, where they will assess you and look at what your needs are and then make recommendations back to the organisation. So I think if you're unable to do it internally, which most won't be able to, there's lots of organisations that you can go to for advice and support, and they're experts in this area. So yeah, there's always experts out there. I'm volunteering at the minute for a charity called Neurodiversity in Business, and so we're looking at how we can support individuals and employees and their neurodiverse workforce. So there's again there's charities, there's lots of information and guidance, but again, this emphasis on this person-centered approach, it's very individualistic. And say if you've got two people with ADHD or autism or dyslexia in the team, their needs may be very different, and so you need to treat them each as individuals and understand what their needs are, challenges, things that they find hard within the workplace, because that will vary from person to person. So that's what I would recommend.
So yeah, talk to me a little bit more about this organization. It's interesting that organizations are coming more and more to help businesses being accommodated and inclusive. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of companies in the UK that are quite well known, Genius Within and Lexic, and to my knowledge, they were set up by individuals that were neurodiverse themselves. So I think the motivation came from that, and I think this often happens when you get an assessment or a diagnosis, or regardless of age really, that it happens, you do see the barriers and you see the challenges, and I think you see life a little bit differently and you want to help other people. And as far as I'm aware, those organizations were set up to make life a little bit better and more accommodating for these individuals. And I'm sure there'll be more companies that do pop up that do things like this. I'm sure there's lots. I haven't researched it heavily myself, but there's tons of organisations that are doing good and are really motivated to help generate awareness of neurodiversity, champion it, and really focus on the strengths that organisations can gain, and also work on eradicating the stigma that is associated. So yeah, lots of organisations doing lots of great things, but still quite a little bit of work to go.
Absolutely. And what do you want for the future? I mean, in 10 years for the organization, what will be your dream?
It's a good question. I would love for people to be able to feel comfortable enough to disclose any kind of disability, neurodiverse condition, neurodivergence, depending on how you what language you use, mental health condition. I would just want everyone to be able to talk about how they experience life openly within the workplace and have support and encouragement for doing so. So just a fully inclusive working environment where you can work to your strengths, work with different people, understand how different people work, what their needs are, being able to flex working styles, patterns. I think it would be quite a flexible world, because I think that's what works best for everyone. And again, when it comes to neuro-inclusive workplaces, often lots of people will benefit. So it's not just those that are getting the adjustments, but if you can remove barriers from all staff, everyone wins. So it's not sort of grouping people together and giving them special treatment. It's looking at how you can make the workplace better for everyone. And that's the huge benefits when you're looking at neuro-inclusivity. Just everyone wins, essentially. So that'd be a nice little goal.
Yeah, it will happen, and I believe it will if everybody that cares about inclusivity and neurodivergent and etc. do their part. It's going to just be better for the world everywhere you're living. Like I'm from Canada, some people are from the US, and If everybody in the, that's why I use English, it's also for practicing my English because I'm a French speaker as well, but it's also because I wanted my message to be here from everywhere in the world, and for me that's the most important thing that can happen, and if you know me, you will see that on my videos there are some French subtitle as well, so I'm trying my best to make it inclusive for everybody as well. So yeah. I'm so happy to see that everybody's here today. I'm going to thank again Carol, Petra. I've seen Jonathan that's here as well. Valerie, thank you so much for being here today. Or say hi. I'm so excited to see so much people today. I think that is a very good question about talking about inclusivity and accommodate workplace because there's more people than usual, and I want to say thank you for being here today. And yes, like Petra said, that's a good comment, Petra. It's sad that people are hiding their art because other people are isolating them. Yeah. So what you will people are isolating a lot of people that have disability, and what will you suggest to people to open their mind? I know you cannot open the mind of people that are very close, but if somebody has a little openness, what will you say to them to include people like us?
I think it's really important just to think. I think firstly you need to listen to the voices of people that experience life in a different way to you. So whether that's listening to them talk, reading comments, going onto channels that you wouldn't normally go on, I think you just need to understand how other people experience life, not from your perspective, but from their own words. Mm-hmm. And so we used to have, well, we still have, but in my previous role, there was disability networks, there was Deaf Network and a disability network, and I joined both of those. And it was a huge eye opener just to really see the barriers and the challenges and how people experience things and how they face work. And so I think you really need to put yourself in other people's shoes and physically if you can, but just listen to what they have to say, and hear their experience and listen to them, and don't. There's nothing worse than being unvalidated or just challenging someone's experience that you have no experience of yourself and saying, mm-hmm. Oh no, I don't believe that, or that isn't how I see things. It doesn't matter how you see things, it's their experience that's valid, mm-hmm. and how they live. So yeah, put yourself in a position where you can hear from other people what their experiences are, learn from them, and then start to make small changes and start to consider how business decisions or processes or anything will impact other people that live life in a slightly different way. So putting yourself in their shoes and thinking how this might impact them. Those are the sorts of things.
Yeah, like Petra says again, she has a great comments. Thank you so much for being here. Like she said, just don't do that to them. See them as your best addition to your company. And that's right. Because we have our own divergency doesn't mean that we're not capable of giving our own ideas. We have a lot of ideas and creativity, ADHD people, okay? Our mind doesn't stop even when we sleep. It's always there thinking about new things, and sometimes you think so much things that you don't know where to start to accomplish them,
Yeah. So, but yeah, and just rip up the rule book when it comes to hiring and what you're looking for and what talent looks like, because talent, the old talent, was very exclusive and didn't incorporate other groups. So start again. Start with who the sorts of people that you're looking for, how you hire, how you assess, and have a look at who and what people you're excluding from those processes. So yeah, rip it up, start again.
Absolutely. So today's show is almost finished, but like I always ask my guests before we leave, do you have an end word?
Do I have a what, sorry?
end word. What will be the end of this episode? You can say anything you want.
The end.
Yeah. What's the end
Oh,
word?
liberating.
Amazing. So how did you feel to be out of your comfort zone? I'm going to ask you that because now you're out of your comfort zone and you did absolutely well, by the way, and I want everybody to know how proud I am of you right now to be there and to share your own story. So how do you feel now?
Yeah, I feel good. Yeah. Every time I haven't done many of these, but every time I do, it feels a little bit better after. But no, I always appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much for
You're
having me on.
welcome. So do you have any question for Liz? If you have any question, you can ask her right now before we leave. And yeah, so if you and don't forget, like I always say, if you replay this episode because you were busy or you have anything else to do than being on live today, which is totally fine, you can always say on the comment replay because I love to know if you've watched the episode. It can be like on YouTube or on LinkedIn because if you don't know yet, those episodes are going to be on YouTube and you're very, 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 very welcome to go subscribe right now. So thank you so much again, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So yeah, thank you so much again for being here, Liz. I'm so proud of you right now. You did
Thank you,
so
Molly.
well. So have an amazing day, everybody, or night, depending where you are right now. Bye.
Take care.